Hello. Alrighty, it says we are live. Hello to anybody watching now or in the future. If you are watching in the future, just type below #replay. I always like to know who stops by. And I am feeling really called to talk a bit more about feminine energy because it's a topic that I think so many people it's like a lot of the topics I talk about, they just get kind of thrown out there all over the place on social media, and sometimes it's very generalized. So I just want to share about my own experience with it, and then I do have something happening tomorrow, but you can catch the replay even afterwards. If you're watching this a few days later, you could still get the replay. So I'll tell you about that coming up here soon. So if you're here, just say hi. If you're watching later, just say #replay. And so let's talk about feminine energy and what does that mean? Well, first of all, I will tell you, if you are a feminine-based woman, so we're talking about energy here. We're not talking about are you a man or a woman. We're talking about what the energy is. And everybody has both masculine and feminine energy within them. Men have it, women have it. We all have both. But you can be a feminine woman who works more in her masculine energy. That's more rare. Most women are feminine-based women, meaning we work better in our feminine energy. You can be a man that works better in your feminine energy, which is rare, but it does exist. And you could be, but most of the time you're a man that works with your masculine energy, right? So that's what we're talking about here. The issue is for women per se, that's what I'm going to be talking about today, is that most of us are feminine-based women, meaning we work better in our feminine energy, but our society has pushed us so far into the masculine kind of it's a convoluted conversation because we're not just talking about like your masculine energy is bad. You need to have, as a woman, you need to have masculine energy, like when you're at work, when you need to get shit done, that kind of thing. But what I'm more talking about is almost a toxic masculinity that we've been pushed into. And it's our society that does it because we live in a very fast-paced culture that's very go, go, go. It's very productive driven. So like what you produce, being in a capitalistic society, which I'm not against, but has its downfalls because it is very keep going, keep pushing, keep creating, keep making more, keep rising up the ladder. You guys know the drill, right? That's kind of the society we live in. And then if you add on any kind of childhood trauma, and that's a conversation that can go many different ways, because when I start working with people, a lot of times they'll say, oh no, I don't have childhood trauma. But then when I start asking some more questions, it's like, well, my dad, he was away from home a lot, he had to work a lot, and I didn't ever really feel emotionally connected to him. Or, my mom was around and she did a good job and there was always food on the table and yada, yada, yada. But I didn't feel that love and connection with her. So you can have emotional neglect in your relationship with your parent. So I share that because we already live in a society that's pushing us into a more toxic masculinity culture. And then if you add on any childhood trauma to that, any kind of, not getting your needs met, not feeling like you could be in your feminine energy, feeling like you had to stifle a part of yourself, or as I like to say, like not be able to shine your light fully because that was not allowed in your family dynamic for whatever reason, then we learn as children, as little girls, to be more in our masculine energy. Okay, so if you have any questions or you want to say hi, say hi. So we learn to be more in our masculine energy because that gets rewarded, that gets the attention, that, you know, that drive, that like keep going, keep pushing, keep, you know, that perfectionistic kind of mentality, that I need to always be productive mentality. That's how I was raised. I mean, that's essentially what my subconscious brain realized. That's how I get love and connection, which is one of our top 4 needs. Nobody is immune to that. Everybody needs love and connection. So my brain, my subconscious realized if I was good at sports, if I got good grades, if I pushed myself, if I did the best, then I would be rewarded in my family dynamic, my immediate family dynamic. So that's what I learned. It was like, be the best, be perfect, be productive at all times. Don't rest on your laurels, basically. Like, keep going all the time, right? So that's what I was programmed by watching my external environment as a child. I was programmed to be that way. So how does that look when I get older? It was a great coping mechanism my whole life, right? It pushed me to do certain things, pushed me to start my own business, doing all the things to be successful. But then eventually I burnt myself out. And a lot of you that are in my world know that story, right? I suffered from chronic fatigue. I had hypothyroidism. My hormones were all effed up. My body, in a lot of ways, was like shutting down, and it just wasn't sustainable. And what's so interesting when you unpack all of this for yourself, if you are somebody like me, first of all, give me a thumbs up, or, you know, type in the chat if you're watching this later and just say that's me, because I'd love to know, you know. And there's almost like an archetype of people like myself. I was an only child until I was 16. So that there's something to do with that, like being that only child, being that firstborn. I was the firstborn until I was 16. Of course, there's my adopted brother that was born before me, but was given up for adoption. So, you know, in my family dynamic, I was the firstborn. And there's something about being a firstborn child, especially a firstborn girl, that puts you in this place of like, I gotta be the responsible one. I've gotta like do all the things. I've gotta caretake. You know, I caretook at the age of 16. My mom had my little brother, and, you know, I was having to babysit and pushed into these roles of having to be perfect, of having to be everybody's everything, of having to be the people pleaser, the fixer of the family. Let me know if I'm hitting any nails on the head for anybody that's watching or watching later. Having to be the good girl, having to be the one that, just does it right, has to get it right, has to be everybody's everything. That was me. And, you know, this is all going to come out in my book that will be out hopefully within the first few months of next year. I don't know. We'll see where we get with that, but it's in the works. It's closer than it's ever been. I share all these stories in there of being in this dynamic. But what's crazy when you start to unpack it, and I'm going to come back around to feminine energy because it's all connected. When you start to unpack it, it's like you don't even realize. Well, of course you don't realize that you got there because it's your subconscious, right? So you just think it's who you are. Oh, I've just always been a perfectionist. I've just always been an overachiever. You know, I'm just the girl that gets shit done for everybody. I keep everybody on track, right? I'm everybody's therapist in my family. I'm everybody's support system, right? And so you just think that that's who you are until you start doing some of this work, and you're like, and I was very anxious. So I pushed myself to such extremes because I thought that's what I had to do to be loved. Didn't know I was doing that. I pushed myself to such extremes that I burnt myself out. It was affecting my health. It was affecting my finances. It was affecting my relationships. I was single for a really long time. I couldn't ever, keep a man, so to speak, because I was constantly in this space of like, in my masculine energy, trying to control everything around me. And it was depleting the you-know-what out of me. I had no energy. So it was affecting my health. It affected my relationships. It affected my finances. Why? Because when you are stuck in this toxic cycle of having to be everything for everyone, having to be everybody's taskmaster, having to be everybody's, as I like to say, emotional support animal. Like you're the person they call or run to when the shit hits the fan. But then when you need something, like that's what would happen to me. It's like nobody would ever ask me how I was because everybody just always thought I was fine. Give me a thumbs up if that's you. I know there's some ladies out there that are like this. It's like nobody asked me how I was doing because I was everybody's rock. They just assumed I was good. I had it. But internally I was crumbling until one day I just did. And so that is what being in these toxic cycles, if you're a feminine woman and you're not embracing your feminine energy, it's literally sucking you dry. It's literally, like your life force energy is being so depleted because your body, your energy was not meant to live in this culture of constantly going and doing and pushing beyond your limits. So the question becomes, how do we change it? And the other thing to share about it too, I'm doing a workshop tomorrow, but it's from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Central Time, 7 to 8:30 if you're on the East Coast, and we're going to be going into this work in a very deep way. It goes beyond healing your nervous system, which is what I got into big time. And that is foundational in healing this pattern. That's why I focus so much on the nervous system in my private client work, and then also have a self-paced nervous system program. Because when we learn how to regulate our nervous systems, and it's not like your nervous system is never just going to get to a place where it's always regulated. We're meant to go into activated nervous system states like fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Maybe not fawn so much. I don't know if we were meant to go into fawn. But those are survival states. So in a way, maybe we were, because there are times when we need to be in all of those different states in order to survive different situations. For instance, you don't want to be super chill when you get on the freeway and there's a bunch of cars flying at you. You need to get in an activated nervous system state to enter that freeway and be really alert and on guard, right? So again, we need these states. But the problem is most of us, myself included, this is part of the toxic masculinity that happens because of childhood trauma. My body, the switch to survival states just stayed on. It never turned off until I burnt myself out. My body was like, yeah, you're not doing anything anymore. You're laying in bed starting at like 1 p.m. So a lot of women that I know are stuck in this survival state of flight, which is constantly needing to be busy, constantly needing to do things. The yes girl that says yes to everything and everybody. And that is, in other words, like being in your masculine energy. And I'm going to actually read some things right off of my sheet here. Like, what is an imbalanced or weaker masculine energy look like? We're talking about energy here, not a masculine man. We're talking about masculine energy within you as a woman. You have difficulty setting boundaries, difficulty standing up for and protecting yourself, especially in intimate relationships. Oh, that's not the one I was looking for, but these are also good too. That's not the one. Constantly needing, this is an overbearing masculine, constantly needing to do things, okay? Focus solely on achieving and performing and work to the point of burnout. Sound familiar? Feeling anxious, guilty, or agitated when you rest because you feel like you should be doing something. Often feeling lonely even when others are around because you don't allow yourself to have true intimacy. So when we are not in our when we are not in our feminine energy and we're in this imbalanced masculine, we struggle with all those things. We have to be going, we have to be doing, like we don't know how to just chill and rest. Rest feels dangerous to our system. And being in your feminine energy is actually quite vulnerable. And that's why I think a lot of women have a hard time with it. Again, this is all unconscious, but it feels unsafe. It feels unsafe to be in your feminine energy because, if I'm going all the time, I can be alert for what could happen around me. Again, going back to the nervous system. That's why the nervous system conversation is always going to come into play, because a huge part of getting into your feminine energy is healing your nervous system, is getting out of the fight, flight, freeze, fawn states. That's a huge part of it. Not something we're going to be able to cover in an 1.5-hour workshop, but what we're going to be doing tomorrow in my workshop is learning how to bring ourselves back to that place of self-regulation, to bring ourselves down into the parasympathetic nervous system when we get activated, and to learn when we're in our masculine energy and it's gone too far versus when we can step into our feminine energy and allow a little bit more of that in. So I'll be using some somatic movements to do this. We're going to be doing energy healing on the toxic masculine, helping you get into that feminine energy. And I'm just checking my notes here. Yeah, like I was saying, one of my notes here is our relationships suffer, especially our if you're a feminine woman and you're married or dating a masculine man, that relationship's going to suffer if you are stuck in a masculine energy, because you're going to try to control the man. And if the man is masculine, that's not going to work for him. And it's going to affect your health. For me, my cortisol levels were high. I had inflammation around my belly. My face was puffier. It affects your money because the feminine is about receiving. So it's affecting how you receive, not just money, but also compliments, gifts from the universe. Even up until recently, I realized I was blocking myself from receiving. It was like I was going like this, nope, 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 nope. It was subtle, but it was there. And I realized that in my preparing to get married for my wedding, I had people asking oh, hey, do you need help with a bouquet? I can work on that. And I'm like, oh, no, you don't have to. No, I got it. Doing the whole, nope, I've got it. I'll handle it. That doesn't work, right? If you were that person that's no, I've got it. Let me do it. You don't have time for that. I don't want to be a burden. If that's you, there is work to be done on receiving. And that is affecting your finances. So you might be let's say you're making good money, but it's going out the door all the time because there's a part of you that doesn't feel worthy and doesn't feel able to receive. So we need to fix that. And the receiving piece, the worthiness piece, it's connected to your feminine energy. I have clients that, several people, it's like all of a sudden I started noticing this in people, and I don't know if it's just because they were, coming into my orbit or what, but I know several people that were struggling with heavy bleeding, like bleeding out during their menstrual cycles. If you're having a lot of reproductive issue problems, there is a disconnect with your feminine energy. The body is going to start speaking to you when things are out of alignment. And I think that these symptoms are just going to start accelerating because the energy on the planet now is like, we need women to be able to access their feminine energy. We don't need women pushing themselves to such extremes that they're making themselves sick. That's what I was doing. So I think I covered all my points there. It'll affect, everything's connected to everything. So if your health is suffering, it's connected to your money. If your money is suffering, it's connected to your health and your relationships. Definitely your relationships and your finances are very connected. But all of it is connected to your feminine energy if you're a woman who's pushed herself to such extremes because you think subconsciously that that's what you have to do. So I'm kind of just repeating myself and going on here, but this is something I've been unraveling for quite a while now. It's taken me a good, probably a few years to unravel this, and I'm sure there's more to do. Because I had so much, I think like a big ball of yarn. I had so many negative beliefs and subconscious patterns wrapped around this needing to be productive to survive and deeply feeling not good enough. So needing to be productive to feel good enough and needing to be perfect. So it's taken me a long time to unravel this, and it's started to really unravel in the last year, to the point that I started feeling this inner calling that like this is stuff I need to start sharing, because these are my people. Like if you are that woman that has to be the responsible one, that's everybody's emotional support, that is burnt out, that's stuck in overwhelm, that's another really clear sign that you are out of alignment, is if you're stuck in overwhelm. Like things are just always spinning out of control and just nothing ever feels grounded and connected, and it's always something. If you catch yourself being like, if it's not one thing, it's another, or if you're saying that a lot, that's a sign that we're not connected to feminine energy. If you suffer from anxiety, that's a sign you're not connected to feminine energy, or even depression. Because all of it, I feel like a broken record, because all those things are issues of a lot of things, right? But when it comes down to it, it's a disconnect from your feminine energy. So in my workshop tomorrow, 6 to 7:30 p.m. Central Time, we're going to be deeply working on healing this disconnect between our self and our feminine energy, and healing the patterns, doing energy healing on some subconscious beliefs where it's unsafe to be in my feminine energy. That's how it was for me. That's how it is for pretty much everybody I work with. It's unsafe to be in your feminine energy, because what's going to happen if I let go of the wheel? What's going to happen if I let somebody else be in charge? What's going to happen if I stop being in control? That's deeply, deeply scary for most people's subconscious. And we can't rewire that in one day, but we can really start the process. And I'm going to give you tools and journaling questions and things you can take with you to begin this process. So I would love to see you there. It's tomorrow, again, from December 3rd, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you're watching this later than that, there's a replay that you can also get with the same link. I'm going to leave below the video on Facebook, and message me for it on Instagram. But I would love to see you there, because this is really deep work. It's really deep, and it's so life-changing. It really is. And you know, I want to see more people have access to that. You know, from doing this work, yes, it was from adding the healthy shakes and supplements that I now take, that those have been instrumental in healing my body. But before I did that, I was doing this work. I was healing my anxious patterns, which is flight. If you're stuck in anxiety, you're stuck in a flight survival state or trauma response, meaning I have to keep going, I have to keep doing, I have to keep pushing myself. Push, 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 push. Go, 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 go. Before I started all of those supplements, which just took it over the edge into a whole other world, right? So highly recommend reaching out to me about those things, because that healed my perimenopause, fatigue, so on and so forth. But before I was doing that, I was healing my nervous system. That was like the first year. Learning about, a big part of healing your nervous system is learning nervous system work. I don't think people understand that. It's not just like, oh, if I just do these 5 things, then my nervous system will be healed. You really have to understand your own nervous system, your triggers, what gets you into these dysregulated states, and how to get out of them. And I will be doing that. We do that in my live group program. I do this with one-on-one clients, and I also have a self-paced nervous system program. So that's what I was doing. And then the second and third year, it was really about seeing the anxious patterns. I used to wake up in the middle of the night in a panic. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, panicked. That doesn't happen anymore. And then even this summer, it was like I was in these worry states again, like really bad, like could not get myself out of this like worry loop I was stuck in. And I was waking up in the middle of the night panicked then, worrying about money, worrying about just all kinds of stuff. You know, I had all these expenses coming up with a wedding and everything. And then, you know, it's been about receiving more. Excuse me. Oof. And that's kind of been the piece these last few months leading up to my wedding, is really learning how to receive. Because that was never something that was shared and taught to me by my immediate family. So I really want all of this for you. So put a link below. I'm going to put a link below. Instagram, just message me. Or if you can always message me here too. To register for my workshop tomorrow. You can get the replay if you can't be live, but join me live if you can. And I would love to share these tools with you. That's all I wanted to say. I think I went on longer than I meant to. But thank you so much for being here. Thanks for those of you that were live. And I hope to see you tomorrow at my workshop.